Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 2097. The topic is Q&A, and the title is, Should You Hire a Nutrition Coach? I'm actually going to answer this in an unbiased way, which would sound surprising considering I do nutrition coaching. But there are times in which people don't need a coach. There are times when they do. And I wanted to give a specific example of somebody who reached out recently and the discussion we had about hiring a coach. They're a 40-year-old female. They want to lose fat and build muscle. They want to get ahead of the aging process. So she said that she doesn't consider herself in good shape, but she also doesn't consider herself in bad shape. She said she's not overweight, she's just soft. She has a son who lifts weights, and she said that he used the term under-muscled. And I was like, that's freaking awesome that he knows that term, so yay. But what that term means is she's not overweight, like she doesn't weigh more than she quote-unquote should. She doesn't have an excessive amount of body fat, but she is soft. So under-muscled means that her body composition is, she doesn't have enough muscle at her weight. Therefore, at the weight she's at, she has more fat than she should have, so she's soft, kind of feels pudgy, doesn't like the way she looks. She doesn't need to lose fat. She actually needs to build muscle. And this is sometimes what I run into with people with eating disorders. I work with clients with eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, and all that stuff. So anorexia is, and bulimia for sure, but they're going to have this idea that they want to lose body fat. And most commonly, those conditions don't, like people with those conditions don't also weight train. They don't also focus on the idea of building muscle. Their goal is typically to weigh less, and building muscle would counter that because muscle has weight. So they actually don't want to build muscle. They often want to take the muscle off as well as the fat and just get skinny. She doesn't want to do that. She knows that being skinny isn't going to help her as she gets older. She'll lose bone mineral density. She'll lose strength, and strength is part of mobility as you age, and making sure that you can be autonomous and be on your own. As you get older, you don't need assistance for everything. You can get up and out of a chair on your own. You can walk upstairs on your own. So she knows that she needs to build muscle. She is now struggling with, okay, well, what do I do? How do I approach this? How do I eat for fat loss, but also eat for building muscle? She knows she can get like weight training programs for 40-year-old females, infinitely online for free. So she is considering just using one of those programs for now. But nutrition coaching, the nutrition aspect, was the part that she was unsure of. She doesn't know how to eat in order to lose fat but not undereat so much that she can't build muscle, or eat enough to build muscle but not so much that she gains body fat or doesn't get the fat loss that she wants. Now, part of her process, she reached out on an internet group that she is part of, and she asked for nutrition coach recommendations. She got a lot of answers. And one of them was for me, so woot woot. So that was awesome. So thank you to the former client who recommended me. That was awesome. Now, because that client recommended me, and then I guess they sent like a personal message later and said, hey, just talk to him. He'll talk to you, and he won't steer you wrong. And thankfully my client knew that. I wasn't going to, make her hire me or, sell her a bunch of crap. So we had a discussion, and she shared the internet thread that she got the answers from in that group, and she was curious about the answers as my thoughts, in the sense of like, well, what do you think about this as an option? What do you think about this as an option? So I have the thread here, and I wanted to share some of the answers and then just some of my thoughts on the answers. There you go. So I thought it would be interesting. One of the answers is, you don't need a coach. Just download MyFitnessPal app and use YouTube to research. There's, some truth to that for sure. There's also a lot that is missing in that answer. The truth is, you can get an app and you can track what you're doing, And then if you watch YouTube videos, and this is, I'm going to come back and fix this statement in a second, but if you watch YouTube videos, you can learn what your macros, quote unquote, should be for your goal. And then you can just do that. Just follow those macros, use the app, and reach your goal. Now, the challenge is, MyFitnessPal and a lot of other apps, they have a lot of flaws in them. One of the flaws that I can't stand is they set singular target numbers. So, for example, they'll say your calories should be 1646. How the hell are you going to hit that every single day? It's almost impossible to hit to a singular calorie every single day. So if you go slightly over, is that a failure? If you go slightly under, is that a failure? How much over, how much under is okay? And then when you look at their macros, they're tracking calories, protein, fats, carbs, sugars, sodium. I mean, my gosh, everything. So then it makes you wonder, well, if I can't hit all of these targets in one day, what are the more important targets that I should hit? Typically, people know calories, but what then? Like, do I make sure my calories are right and my carbs are right? Or are fats more important than carbs? Or is protein more important than fats and carbs? Or is sodium more important if I have a blood pressure issue? Or if I'm an aging population and I'm worried about a blood pressure issue? So apps will track numbers, but they don't give you an easy way to track them in regards to consistency. And they don't tell you of any of the numbers what are the most important numbers, because it's pretty much impossible to hit all of those numbers every single day. You're gonna maybe find a routine that can do it once or twice, but you're not gonna be able to stick to that routine every single day for the rest of your life. So there's some flaws in that. And then using YouTube to research, good God, that is a minefield. God. There are like 40 billion videos on YouTube about food, and they all are going to be contradictory in some way, or confusing, or change perspective of what's most important. So it would be incredibly overwhelming. That advice, in my opinion, is not useful because it's too generic. There's a lot of applicational issues with such advice. So, next thing is somebody talking about if you want a deep dive, I've been anxiously awaiting the Peterson Academy. One of the courses is an 8-hour lecture on nutrition. I'd love to have someone to bounce ideas off when the course goes live. The Peterson Academy is in reference to Jordan Peterson. He is a former psychologist. He might actually still, I don't think he's a practicing psychologist anymore, but he was a psychologist. He met with people, talked to people about problems in life, and was teaching at a university in Canada. Came into some hot water in the public sphere because he didn't want to use pronouns, like chosen pronouns. So that kind of sparked him into notoriety, I guess would be the right word. So he was in the news, and then he had to defend himself for that stuff. So then he was in the news defending himself. And then due to his knowledge of humans, pros, cons, goods, bads, struggles, successes, all the stuff of just being a human, he started to expand his talks on how to be the best human you can be, in finding happiness, finding purpose, all that stuff. So he is wanting to create his own, in a sense, a university, but it's an online type university. I think they have an actual campus in Miami, but it's going to be an online university. It's not accredited right now, but it's eventually going to be a university, and it's kind of a fun way of a person who got kicked out of a university. He is now making his own, and hopefully, in his mind, that it takes over being better than standard traditional brick and mortar type universities. That's probably a ridiculous background, and I think I got enough through there. But one of the courses is an 8-hour lecture on nutrition. Nutrition is something that in 8 hours, you're never, ever, 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 ever going to be able to cover everyone's questions. So her being a 40-year-old female, is that different than in your 20s? Is that different than being in your 60s? Slightly. There are some small differences here and there. So getting in age-specific information is going to be difficult to get in just 8 hours. Building muscle versus losing body fat is going to be very difficult to understand in just 8 hours. And then a lot of nutrition is based on longevity, not necessarily building muscle and losing body fat, because those aren't necessarily tied in with longevity. They are 100% related, but whenever you talk about nutrition longevity research, that's typically more so based on just, what allows you to live the longest with the least amount of health complications. It doesn't really have anything to do with aesthetics. They'll talk about fat loss because lower body fat is helpful for longevity, and being strong is helpful for longevity, but the nutrition is mostly based on just being disease-free and trying not to die from a nutrition-related condition. So, that is not really helpful. She's not going to learn what she needs to learn in an 8-hour lecture that is non-specific to her goals and targets. Next, we have a trainer, or a nutritionist, somebody. They said, I can do this. I do it with all of my clients. It doesn't have to be difficult. Women's bodies can be a bit tricky, but if you keep it simple, you'll see success. So that's cool. And it's cool that this person does approach nutrition with the mindset of fat loss and muscle gain. Those are great focal points because fat loss helps just for you to feel better, usually with the way you look. And then it's going to help with a lot of blood markers, it's going to help with just mobility, it's going to help with a lot of aspects of life. But then also focusing on building muscle, building strength is going to help with all those things as well. So why not approach it on both sides rather than one or the other? And then women's bodies can be a bit tricky. Yes and no. I know coming from a male, if I say that it's not that tricky, it's going to be very dismissive and sound as though I don't know. But over half my clients in the history of 24 years, well over 3,000 clients, over half have been females. I've worked with women through menopause, through after they've dieted. They dieted so severely that they lost their menstrual cycle, so we had to get them healthier to restart that. There are differences in responses to nutrition in regards to monthly cycles with males versus females. Like women are going to be more responsive in body weight swings related to their menstrual cycle. They're going to have highs and lows more of energy. There's going to be kind of performance aspects that are a little bit different in training as well. Leading up to a period, a woman might not feel super great in the gym. During the period, definitely not going to feel great. After the period, they might feel amazing, hit some PRs. So when I help women do competitions, we do powerlifting competitions, aesthetic-based competitions where they get on stage and have to walk around in tiny bikinis. We do usually time that stuff around their period, make sure we're not, competing on the same weekend as they're having their period. So there are, now that I go back and actually talk it through, yes, there are differences. So tricky, I just don't like the word tricky because tricky can make it seem like it's unknown. That's the part that I had a hard time agreeing to. So when I said, that was due to the word tricky. Women's nutrition is different than men's. Yes, that I can agree to that. But the word tricky I don't like because it's not unknown, it's predictable, and you can account for it, and we do that all the time. Next, we have somebody suggested the Renaissance Periodization Diet app. That is definitely better than MyFitnessPal, that's for sure. But again, it's an app that you're going to get some automated help, but maybe not be able to ask individual specific questions. So if you have any uncertainties, if you have any questions, you're not really going to have anybody to talk to. And the people name some other apps as well. That is also the case in those. Then we have one of the recommendations here is you're better off getting recommendations where you live, possibly from some of the local gyms. Some of them may even have professionals trained on site. If somebody's trained at a gym, I'm going to get myself in trouble, but a lot of gyms, especially commercial gyms, they just have their own personal training certification. And so that way they can just say a trainer's certified, but the programs are trash. I've actually seen them. I have trained trainers who've had those certifications and, they lacked confidence. They knew they didn't know enough for what they wanted to know. So that's not great advice there. A random home gym group isn't where the best recommendations for this sort of thing will come from. I disagree. since I was one of the recommendations. But they were saying that this person should basically just go where they live and talk to the gyms and the trainers where they live. I'm not sure why that would be the case given the technology and the availability in the world today. Why would you work with somebody locally? Why are you going to limit yourself to maybe 12 trainers or even 50 trainers in your local area when you have the entire freaking world available to you? So, maybe you could go talk to them in regards to understanding what you should look for in a trainer and get some information, but you shouldn't limit yourself to only the people around you, because there is so much you can do virtually nowadays. Like with COVID and all that 2020 chaos, the virtual reach in the world of fitness has expanded, oh my gosh, like infinitely. So I was one of the people that benefited from it. I started doing it before COVID. I started this podcast in 2017, and through the podcast, I had already had clients across the country. So I had a client in California that I helped get a Figure Pro card and was training her because she was a trainer, and a couple of her clients. I had clients in Florida, a couple clients in Texas. I've had clients, thankfully, I'm very lucky, very blessed, very grateful. Before COVID, I've had clients from a variety of places, even outside of the United States. So through COVID, though, it did grow. With the podcast, it grew, and with just more exposure. So I'm fortunate and very blessed and lucky now. I have clients in 7 countries, which is pretty crazy. I have a client, which one of my funny kind of notes is I have a client in New Zealand and a client in Hawaii, and they're on the ends of the spectrum of time zones. So one is yesterday morning, the other one's tomorrow evening. So I always have to try to make sure I get their programs and emails sent out in the correct time zones. So my phone has different clock features, so I'm always scanning through that to see what time it is when I message people. But you can work with people remotely and virtually now. I just wouldn't limit yourself to what's available to you. The clients that I have who are virtual in that condition, they just didn't have anything available to them close that was of the quality that they wanted or knew what they needed. So to have limited yourself to just who's near you is unnecessary given today's technology. And then the other recommendations I saw, there was 2 more I'll read through. One was, have you checked your health insurance for a nutritionist? Mine does. I'm working with one at zero cost to me, but even if I had to pay it out of pocket, it would be worth it. So that is an option if you're looking for a nutrition coach, but you're wanting to save money. If your insurance offers some kind of discount or pays for the whole thing, that would be freaking amazing. So that's definitely an option to look into. There are a lot of dietitians who are great. So just do your research and make sure that they work with people in the past for your specific goal. If they just do fat loss but you want to build muscle, I would suggest looking at a different nutritionist or dietitian. Make sure they actually do what you want. That is huge. Then the last one I'll read through is any AI program, even the one on Meta, which is free, will set up everything you need. There are programs and ways in which you can set up nutrition programs to get started. We have that for free on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. Go to the nutrition education page. The first document is create your own nutrition program. So you can get the numbers and calories, protein, and then distribution is actually the next most important thing. So you can learn what's important, how to set that up, what your numbers should be, and get yourself started. So I made that known to this person, the listener who reached out and said, hey, you don't have to pay me for anything. Here's a podcast that'll help. Here's, actually, I gave her a list of 5 podcasts to get her started because they got to kind of go in order of what she should focus on. And then that handout from the website. And I said, if you want, you can get started with this stuff. And then if you run into issues, if you run into complications, if you have any questions, just shoot me a message along the way. If the questions become a little, crazy and super intense, or you're getting really frustrated, maybe we'll sign up for a month or 2 of the service so I can actually answer these one-on-one with more time. But there's definitely information that'll get you started. It's then saying, okay, how much help do I need? Do I have a lot of questions and I would like personalized one-on-one answers? Do I need help with accountability? Do I need someone to be checking in on me to make sure I actually follow through with this stuff? There's a lot of reasons why someone would hire a coach rather than use an app or an automated program. The apps, if you just have an app that just allows you to put your data into it, I'd say that's the least helpful because you're not going to know what to do with that data. You don't know when to switch things. When should you go up in calories? When should you go down in calories? As I said before, you don't know what is the most important things to be tracking outside of calories, considering they track fats, carbs, protein, sodium, sugars, all the other things as well. So it can be a little overwhelming as to know what to track and what's most important. So that can be a challenge to using apps. If you use automated programs like Renaissance Periodization, Lane Norton has his own nutrition app as well. Those can kind of like take you step by step through things, but they still don't offer a lot of one-on-one style questions. You might have more complications with food restrictions or food considerations, if you're celiac disease, diabetes, things like that. How do I work around that? Maybe you've just always had trouble in the past with cravings. Maybe you tend to be an emotional eater. There's a lot of things that an app or an automated program can't help you with. They can definitely get you started. Absolutely, I think they have value. But are they going to be the be-all, end-all, provide everything that everyone needs? No, there are going to be some people who need more, and that is why people like me have a job, and there is a demand for like an actual human to talk to when you're going through this process because they can answer questions and get things more personalized. So a lot of the clients I work with, I have clients who've never been to a gym before ever. I have clients who are professionals at things that are done in gyms. So like elite total powerlifters, like super successful endurance athletes, aesthetic competition pros like IFBB pros and natural carb pros. So one client that comes to mind is he's training for a triathlon next year, and he has running training, biking training, swimming training, weight training, and then how he handles his nutrition on each of those days, and whether it's different if he combines two of the days, so if he does biking and running in one day versus just biking or just running, and then what foods does he eat before he does those things, what foods does he eat after he does those things, and it also depends on the duration of those things. So that is going to be very detailed, and you're not going to get that through an app. So a lot of the clients I work with, we do very nuanced goals. Like another client is a nutrition coach, and they are just crazy busy. They have morning workout on their own, which is typically like cardio and mobility. Then they teach classes. Then they eat and have their own heavy weight training session midday. Then they teach classes. And then thankfully now they have somebody to do the evening classes, so they kind of like take a break in the evenings. But they're on their feet all the time, so they eat around 18 to 20 times their body weight in calories. Now, it's hard to find an app that's going to tell you that that's okay. So she was chronically under-eating, was soft, even though she was lean, and was underperforming in all of her lifts and her exercises. So whenever we started talking, I was like, you're not eating enough. And she's like, really? And I said, yeah, no. Like, you're so damn busy. You're crazy on your feet all day. I said, you need to definitely eat more, but we don't need to just eat more in general. Like, we need to eat more specifically before the morning workout, specifically before the midday workout. You need to front load teaching the classes with more carbs, back load, like on the back end of the classes, switch over to fats. And we started talking about nuances of macronutrient timing. She got way leaner, much better energy, and is crushing PRs and everything, even though she's now eating more. So there are nuances where getting a personal touch does help. So that is my general recommendation in a summary here, would be is if you're just looking for somebody to get started, go to the website, www.brutalirongym.com, go to nutrition education. The first document is create your own nutrition program. Use that and get started. There's tons of podcasts available through this podcast. You can listen to things. You can send me questions. I answer people's questions for free all the time, and I make podcasts for people for free all the time. So please reach out. Our email is brutalironjim@gmail.com, or you can reach out on the website, www.brutalironjim.com. But that's enough to get started. You can definitely get going. If you have individual specific questions and you start to feel like, I'm getting a little lost, or I need accountability, or I just need a little bit extra in order for this to go well, make the decision while you care. Make the decision while you want it to go well, while you're at least investing some effort to go ahead and hire somebody at least for the midterm. Get them for a month or two. I don't do any contracts, so you can work with me for a month or two, get over that hurdle, and then go back on your own if you'd like. So I would really encourage somebody is if you're considering doing it, do it, because it's going to get the ball rolling. It's going to get you moving. You're going to start making progress. You're going to feel good. You're going to get this motivation to continue, and that is huge. It's huge to ride a wave of motivation to some tangible progress, tangible results, so that way it feeds and continues the motivation. If you have a flare-up of motivation, don't let that go. Don't lose it. So I would encourage you to hire a nutrition coach if not doing so is going to cause you to not do anything or to not reach your goals. So hopefully that was helpful. I just thought it was a fun discussion. If you have any questions, if you need anything, always reach out on the website, www.brutalironjim.com. We have a contact us page, so just send us a message from there. If you have any interesting feedback, if you want to let me know your thoughts, I would love to hear. And it's just fun to be more interactive with the listeners to make sure the podcast is answering everybody's questions and everybody's happy with it. So reach out. I appreciate hearing from everybody. Okay, if you like the podcast, please share the podcast. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on our website. And also, we have other information that we share on our social media channels. So you can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. I've been posting a video pretty much every day on YouTube for now, so definitely go check that out. It's really good training advice, and I answer people's questions, so if you want to see anything in a YouTube video, just let me know as well. Cool. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.